Hello, welcome to the 9.6 Part 1 video. Today we are continuing to solve quadratic equations. Remember that quadratic equations can have two, one, or no real number solutions. It can never have more than two solutions. So we have something called the quadratic formula that can help you solve any quadratic equation. So we've learned some different methods so far. We've done graphing, we've done taking square roots, we've done factoring, we've done completing the square. And there's all certain cases that those work out where you want to use one of those. The quadratic formula can be used for any quadratic equation, So here is your quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Some of you may or may not have learned this before and learned a song with it. It can help you when you are writing it out if you have the song going through your head. So you are going to be using your values of a, b, and c to plug into the quadratic formula. Here's an example. 2x squared plus 3x minus 5. We know that a is 2, b is 3, and c is negative 5. So they are taking this exact formula and plugging in a, b, and c appropriately. Then from there we will simplify it down, but this is a look at what it's going to look like when you plug into your quadratic formula. So let's try some examples. Alright, here's the first one. What are the solutions of negative 3x squared minus 11x plus 4 equals 0? Use the quadratic formula. So we have it again for you right over here. X squared equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's start by identifying our a, b, and c. A is negative 3, b is negative 11, and c is positive 4. Using the quadratic formula, we will start plugging in. So opposite of b, since my b is negative 11, I will take positive 11, plus or minus square root of b squared, so b is negative 11 squared, minus 4 times a, which is negative 3, times c, which is 4. And that will all be over 2 times a, which is negative 3. So I've just taken the quadratic formula and I have plugged in my a, b, and c from my equation. Now I start simplifying, so make sure you pay attention to order of operations when you're simplifying. When you start, you always simplify under the radical first. So the 11 plus or minus is coming over. I'm going to simplify all that's underneath here. You can type what's underneath here straight into your calculator. So negative 11 squared is 121 minus 4 times negative 3 times 4. If you've entered that correctly in your calculator, you get 169. And that will be over 2 times a, so 2 times negative 3 there is negative 6. So continuing to simplify, now I can actually take the square root of this number. The square root of 169 is 13. So I have 11 plus or minus 13 all over negative 6. So now I can actually separate what I have with plus and minus. So one of my solutions is going to be 11 plus 13 over negative 6, and my other solution is going to be 11 minus 13 over negative 6. So you do have two solutions here. We need to figure out what they're going to be. So 11 plus 13 is 24 over negative 6, so that's negative 4. And 11 minus 13 is negative 2 over negative 6, which is positive 1/3. So my solutions here are negative 4 and 1/3. So this formula is what I use to get the solutions. If I were to graph this, I would see that at the x-axis, this is where my graph crosses the x-axis, at negative 4 and at 1/3. Okay, so continuing on, let's try another one using the quadratic formula. So in this problem, we can see that it is not set equal to 0. We do want our problem set equal to 0 so that we can solve it. So we can subtract 21 to the other side. So x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. Now identify your a, b, and c. So a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is negative 21. So take that and go to your quadratic formula. So opposite of b gives us positive 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 21. All over 2 times a, which is 1. So remember, this is the part you are simplifying first, underneath your radical. You can type just this into your calculator. Make sure you include the parentheses. When you type that into your calculator, if you've done it correctly, under that radical, that part gives you 100. So you have 4 plus or minus the square root of 100 all over just 2, since 2 times 1 is 2. From there, you should all know that the square root of 100 is 10. Okay, as you know from this class, we've been doing plus or minus, so that's why we get plus or minus 10 over 2. So my two answers, one of them is 4 plus 10 over 2, and the other is 4 minus 10 over 2, and simplify those. So that gives me 14 over 2, which is 7, and negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. So once again, I'm plugging my a, b, and c into my quadratic formula. Simplifying, I get 7 and negative 3. We've included a few more examples to go through with you now. So this one is set equal to 0, so I can already identify my a, b, and c. A is 3, b is 1, c is negative 14. So going to my formula, x equals the opposite of b, so that's negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 1 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 14, all over 2 times a, which is 3. Okay, so continuing on, simplifying under your square root, typing that into your calculator. Practice typing it into your calculator now. So if you've typed that into your calculator correctly, underneath there, you get the square root of 169. And that will be over 6, because 2 times 3 is 6. The square root of 169 is 13, so I have negative 1 plus or minus 13 over 6. So now I can go ahead and write out to have two answers. So x equals negative 1 plus 13 over 6, and x equals negative 1 minus 13 over 6. Negative 1 plus 13 is 12 over 6 gives us 2. Negative 1 minus 13 is negative 14, and negative 14 over 6 does not divide nicely, so we simplify. We know that 2 goes into both of those, so I'm dividing by 2, and I get negative 7 over 3. So 2 and negative 7 over 3 are my solutions. Okay, last problem. It is not set equal to 0, so what I can do is subtract my 5 to the other side. However, there is a like term with it. 11 and negative 5 now are like terms, so I need to combine those together. So I get p squared minus 5p plus 6 equals 0. So if you ever can combine it with a like term, make sure you do. Go ahead and identify a, b, and c now. So a is 1, b is negative 5, and c is positive 6, because 11 minus 5 is still positive 6. Going to our quadratic formula, x equals the opposite of b, so positive 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, simplifying under my radical first, typing that in. Okay, you should get x equals 5 plus or minus the square roots of 1 all over just 2, because 2 times 1 is 2. The square root of 1 is just 1, so this is 5 plus or minus 1 over 2. From there, you can write your two possible answers. 5 plus 1 over 2 or 5 minus 1 over 2. So we know 5 plus 1 is 6 over 2 gives us 3. And 5 minus 1 is 4 over 2 gives us 2. My solutions are 3 and 2. So now on your own, go ahead and pause the video and try both of the Goddets using the quadratic formula. All right, and checking yourself. Make sure you have followed all the steps necessary. When you plug in here, you do get under the radical 81. The square root of 81 is 9. So then make sure you set up yourself with two answers. -7 plus 9 over 4 and -7 minus 9 over 4. Make sure this is a -7 because it's the opposite of b. On this side, when you plug in, under your radical, you get the square root of 49, which is 7. So we have 5 plus 7 over 4 and 5 minus 7 over 4. And then you simplify to get your answers. So go ahead now and record any questions that you had over the lesson.